The following podcast has not been rated. You're listening to Fullbacks Are People Too, The Fact, and here's your host, CJ Newman.
You're listening to Fullbacks Are People Too, The Fact. It's that time of the year again, ladies and gentlemen. It's AFC Championship. It's NFC Championship. It is Championship Week. The AFC Championship is going to be hosted in Kansas City as the New England Patriots come to town to see if they can take down the number one seed. And then over in the NFC, the New Orleans Saints are hosting the LA Rams. I can't wait for either of these matchups. It should be very high-powered, should be very offensive. Defenses, come on into the field if you dare. So this week, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to talk a little bit about head coaching changes. We're going to be talking about some of the news that's going on in the NFL, talk a little bit about Antonio Brown. But we're going to do all that with my guest hosts this week. Returning is at The Real Forno, Tyler Forness. And then Bobby, the Recliner QB, is going to be coming back on the show with me at PFT PM Posse. So these two are going to be guest hosting this week as opposed to just being my guests, because we're interviewing at @aflow_, who is Alex Florio. He is a journalism major in college right now. He goes to the West Virginia University. He is looking forward to a career in doing some sort of work with the NFL, whether that be in broadcasting, whether that be in journalism. That's just his particular niche, because he is the son of Mike Florio of Pro Football Talk. So it's very nice to have a common celebrity come on the show and just shoot the shit with us. He's also a Minnesota Vikings fan. We're not going to hold that against him. But we're going to talk a little Minnesota Vikings. We're going to talk some college. We're going to talk some head coaching changes. We're going to talk everything in the NFL that's going on right now. So without further ado, I'd like to bring on to the show at @aflow_. And welcome back to the FAP, ladies and gentlemen. This week I have a very special guest with me. His name is Alex Florio. He is the son of the great Mike Florio. Alex, I'm bringing you on because you're one hell of a radio personality. I've heard you on the PFT PM podcast, and I got to ask you, man, how the hell are you today?
I'm doing pretty well today, and I feel like I still am pretty shitty with the radio stuff right now, but I've only done it like 5 times. But you know, that thing will keep going.
You've got the personality for it, I'm sure.
I've got the face too.
You've got the face for radio. I can definitely tell. We have a video going on right now. I'm kidding. You're fine. Not that I'm judging you or anything. So I also have on the line here today, I've got my usual guest hosts. I've got Tyler Forness. Tyler, how the hell are you?
I'm doing well, CJ. How about yourself?
I was better until we got beat by the Chargers a couple weeks ago. I also have on the line Bobby. Bobby, how the hell are you?
I'm doing pretty shitty because the Cowboys lost this past week, but other than that, it's all good.
All right, so everybody's consensus in this chat room is we're all in a pretty shitty mood because either we didn't make the playoffs or we got eliminated from the playoffs, correct?
Definitely.
Yep.
Accurate.
All right, so we'll talk playoffs in a little bit. We'll talk what's going on, what's left of the playoffs. But the one thing I do want to talk about is for those that are actually done and those that are eliminated. Man, there has been 6 confirmed head coaching jobs that have been made already, and I got to ask you guys, and I'll ask you first, Alex. What's your favorite best head coach hire out there so far this season? What are you thinking, man?
Right now this season, I mean, I kind of really like Bruce Arians to the Buccaneers. I've really liked Bruce Arians when he was the coach for the Cardinals. So I really like to see that he's coming back and that, you know, he thinks he's doing better and he's able to do it. So, but I think, yeah, I mean, I think he's a good coach, obviously. But I mean, I think out of all the other ones, because I don't think any of the hires are really that great. But yeah, I think this one is pretty good.
I do have to agree with you. I think that's probably the best, in my opinion, as far as the coaching of the offseason. Did you happen to read Bruce Arians' book, by the way? The Quarterback Whisperer?
No.
I did, and I did it on Audible over the past 3 days, and I got to tell you, I thought there was going to be more profanity on there, but it's limited for his taste. I'm very surprised. Tyler, are you in unison with that, or do you have a better? Wait a minute, I'm not even going to ask. I know who the hell you two are going to go with.
Actually, I'm not going with Freddie Kitchens.
That's Freddie goddamn Kitchens to you.
No, that's only if you don't know who he is, CJ. My favorite coaching hire is Cliff Kingsbury. Now he went 35-40 at Texas Tech. It's a middle tier D1 program, but recruiting to Lubbock is really, really difficult. And he did have some success with Patrick Mahomes, Baker Mayfield. They put up really big numbers, but he had a difficult time recruiting to Lubbock, Texas, and I get that. Mahomes put up video game like numbers, but they were in a little bit more of a system where it's kind of dink and dunk, running a lot of screens, running a lot of picks. They weren't moving the ball downfield very much. I think moving to the NFL, he's going to modify his game enough to where he's going to be able to incorporate what Josh Rosen does well, throwing those seams, throwing those 15-yard out routes. And I think he's going to have a lot of success transitioning to the NFL game.
It makes a lot of sense, but at the same time, I was wondering who the hell was Cliff Kingsbury and why should I care when he was being brought in for interviews? I mean, Alex, did you know who Cliff Kingsbury was before they were talking about bringing him on for the Jets and for the Cardinals?
I mean, yeah, because, being a WVU fan and being stuck in the Big 12, I pretty much know who the coaches are. So, or at least the ones that are worth a shit, I guess. Well, I guess now Kansas has less miles, but yeah.
Okay, so I guess once again, there's another coach that I just had no idea about. Bobby, your favorite this offseason?
Yeah, I was going to sarcastically say Cliff Kingsbury, and if we were all going to have a good laugh and joke about it, but then, Tyler went ahead and threw it down in a serious manner. So I'm not going to do that one, but I would have to go with Bruce Arians also, just because I think he's the most entertaining one of all of them. And I think that the Bucs are a fairly talented team already, even though I don't like their quarterback position. But just to throw something out there a little bit different, I'm going to go with Adam Gase in New York because he's going to be given control of the offense. I think he'll do really, really well with Sam Darnold and be able to develop him much better than, Tannehill, who did well before he got, injured. And then Greg Williams is going to take care of that defense. And we know their defense always has some pretty good talent around there. So I think you could see the Jets actually come out and make a splash next year just with the Gase and Darnold connection.
Gotcha, and makes a lot of sense. I'm on board with you as far as the Bruce Arians. I think A-Flow here is on board with the Bruce Arians thing. I don't know if I can get on board with you as far as the Adam Gase thing. I think that he should have went back to become an offensive coordinator before he was even considered being a head coach again. That's just my thoughts on it.
See, I disagree, CJ.
Yeah, why would he?
Okay, I'll tell you why. Because I feel that he had the opportunity for the past 2 seasons, and I know he could have did it if he actually went up and grew a sack and talked to the general manager about it to get a different quarterback. But he stuck with Ryan Tannehill and his injured ass and decided that he was going to go that route. And he thought that he can actually make chicken salad out of chicken shit. But I honestly, I don't think he knew that Ryan Tannehill was chicken shit, and I think everybody else in the world did.
I don't think that's on Adam Gase.
Oh, go ahead.
I don't think that's on Adam Gase. I think that was Mike Tannenbaum, and that's why he got moved out of the general manager position. Got to remember, Adam Gase took a healthy Ryan Tannehill to a playoff berth, and if it weren't for Ryan Tannehill partially tearing his ACL at the end of the 2016 season, they probably go into Pittsburgh and give him one hell of a game, if not win. And then he went 8-8 last year with Jay fucking Cutler, and took just a deranged team that lost a bunch of star pieces and trying to build the culture. And then they went 7-9 this year, and they started off 3-0. He's a really good football coach, and especially with the $90 million in cap space that the Jets have, Mike Maccagnan does anything right this offseason, that Jets team could be fighting for a playoff spot.
I mean, I agree. I think Adam Gase he'll be a good coach for them.
Do you guys think he'll be the motivational leader that they need? I honestly think, if anything, he's going to be the cheerleader, rah-rah, get you together type of guy. I think he's built for that, but I'm not sure that he can hoist a Lombardi with a defense on the other side. He's got to get did they announce his defensive coordinator hire yet?
Greg Williams.
Greg Williams, that's right.
Greg Williams.
Like, right as I said that, it popped back into my mind. I wonder why.
I'll tell you this. Anybody who Peyton Manning gives an endorsement to, I'll take him.
You know, that's a good point. But at the same time, I mean, I keep going back and I think about this. I mean, Mike talks about it on the show all the time, but when you're the offensive coordinator for Peyton goddamn Manning, you're really just watching television at that point. That guy was
But no, at the same time, though, but we all know that, Peyton Manning is an anal, genius freak that is only going to take somebody else that can keep up with him, for starters. And secondly, Peyton Manning came out and endorsed him. Peyton Manning does not come out and endorse just anybody or anybody he's worked with in the past, unless you're Eli Manning, his brother, when he comes out and
or nationwide
game film. Yeah, nationwide. I mean, so he doesn't just come out and endorse anybody like that. And then, CJ, you said that he should have gone down and been an offensive coordinator. Why? He had a chance to be a head coach again. Why would you take a demotion when you can take a lateral move to a better situation?
I don't disagree with that at all. I'm just surprised that he was offered, to be honest with you. But
if Cliff Kingsbury and the Zach Taylor and the guy that made Sean McVay's Frappuccino can get a head coaching job, then you can't really knock Adam Gase.
That's pretty goddamn hilarious. All right, let's move on to the worst head coach hire. And let's remember, Alex is our guest here, so we're going to ask him the questions. Tyler, why don't you go ahead and ask a question of Mr. Alex here?
Yeah, Alex, I know that you and I are both Minnesota Viking fans, and let's be honest, we just dealt with one of the worst coaching hires in recent memory with JDF. Tell me, you're a West Virginia guy. How in the world did you become a Vikings fan and want to cheer for disappointment?
Well, I think everybody knows, or they've known for years, that my dad's a Vikings fan. And growing up, when I was younger, it was kind of hard to get into football just because I was a little too impatient for it. But, by the time I hit middle school, I really got into it. That's also when I started playing. But when I was 13, that's when we had Brett Favre and Adrian Peterson and Sidney Rice and Percy Harvin. And that was that 2009, 2010 year was great when we went to the NFC Championship game. But that game was a heartbreaker, and that's always stuck with me. And that's just, I've always just felt drawn to them after that game, even though it ended in disappointment.
Now, did you feel robbed when you found out a year or two later what exactly happened in that whole season, that whole year, that whole game, matter of fact?
I think at that point I was really I just didn't understand it. But really, I don't have any hard feelings towards it. And my dad, he stuck up for Sean Payton. He was one of the few ones that really did that. So I really I'm kind of over it. I was upset when it happened. And then once all of the other things started to go down, I just really really just didn't understand it. But it's all good.
Now, you said that did you say you played football? Do you play football when you were in school?
Yeah, I started playing when I was in middle school.
What position did you play?
Yeah, offensive line.
Yeah, I played both sides on the line. I had to pretty much, I went to a really small school, and basically didn't come off the field. So,
Oofa. So you were a guard or a tackle?
I was a tackle, and I played D end and tackle, a little bit of linebacker, but I couldn't really. I just don't think my vision was good enough, so I just played on the D line.
So I take it when you were on the D line, you were on a 4-3 defense since you were playing. Okay, all right, that makes a lot of sense. I could tell by your body build that you definitely would have been a good offensive lineman back in your days.
Yeah, and I mean, I was pretty fast too, really.
So Alex, you've been around football a lot. Obviously, you've been to a lot of games and things like that. So out of all your football memories, all your football moments and whatnot, what's been the greatest? What's been the most the thing you look back on like, oh man, that was badass, or that was the coolest thing, or that was the most awestruck? And what's your one overriding memory that really kind of dominates it in football when you think about it?
I mean, what I really think about that NFC Championship game with the Vikings and Saints. Like that really drew me in, but I wasn't there. But the year before was Super Bowl 43, and that was the year my dad signed with NBC. So we went to that game, and that was the first NFL game I went to, and that was an amazing game. And I always remember the Santonio Holmes catch, and that was like one of the first great things that I got to experience. So, and I was 12, and that was just that was one of the best plays at the time of football history. So yeah, So where were you at when that happened? Like, where were you at in the stadium? Like, what was the atmosphere? I mean, like, were you around? Was a lot of people freaking out? Were you in a box type thing with people freaking out? I mean, I'm sure people were freaking out. Yeah, people were freaking out, but back then it was like a few months before my dad signed with NBC, and we got tickets from the Rooneys because they told my dad if they went to the Super Bowl, they'd give us tickets. So they gave us peanut heaven seats. So we were at the very top, at the very top of the stadium. But yeah, people were freaking out. And it was, it really wasn't a bad, I didn't have a bad seating experience. But I remember, I wanted the Steelers to win, and I was pretty young, so I remember feeling really excited about that, and everyone else. It was a really crazy experience for that, and that was my first real one. Yeah. Okay. So Super Bowl, Rooney's gave you tickets, all this. All right, fuck this, guys. I'm done. I'm jealous as hell. I can't do this anymore. I'm not. This is just pissing me off. No, I'm just kidding. That's awesome.
That is pretty damn awesome. So, considering your location, you're in an area where you could possibly, if you weren't a contrarian like you are, root for a potential of 3 different teams. If I'm not mistaken, you could root for the Ravens, you could root for the Redskins, and you could root for the Steelers. So, what drew you away from that besides your dad's affliction for the Minnesota Vikings? When I was younger, I kind of liked the Steelers because, I was just, everyone else did. I didn't really, single out my dad for my team just because, everyone else in my family was a Steelers fan. So I really didn't get, to appreciate the Vikings at a younger age. But, I kind of feel similarly to how my dad did when he decided to be a Vikings fan. Where he grew up was more north of where we live, and it was just a little bit closer to Pittsburgh, but everyone there was a Steelers fan, and he wanted to just be a fan of somebody different. And I really don't mind. I kind of enjoy being a fan of a team that really no one else is a fan of, and it's not. It's different because it's not a local team. Not even close to being. The Steelers aren't even really. I guess they're local,
I mean, that really is the closest thing. 2 hours away, that's the closest team we have. But like, you know, really, there were a lot of things that started happening too with like Ben Roethlisberger, and I just decided that I just hated the Steelers, and I just didn't want to be a fan of that team.
So is that when you said that, you know, the Ben Roethlisberger, so this would have been, you know, probably around the time when he was in the news a lot, that Sports Illustrated article came out that, you know, everybody talked about how he's like a really shitty tipper and all that. So that had a pretty big impact, a pretty big influence on your feelings toward him?
Honestly, yeah, that pretty much impacted how I felt about the whole Steelers team. I was just like, you know, this is a terrible guy. Like, I don't want to be a fan of this team.
Yeah, and his offensive linemen were also kind of, you know, they were in the place down in Georgia with him. So, you know, while they didn't necessarily accused of something, they were there. We know how the offensive linemen they protect the quarterback. They protect him regardless of where they're at. They're always going to. So, you know, you can't really, you know, I can see that because I think I was in college when that happened. And it affected me a lot, to where I've had a pretty strong dislike towards him since then, and not because he necessarily did something illegal, but just because I didn't agree with what he did. And I thought that he was, I guess, morally wrong or something. I just didn't like it, so I can see that.
I agree. I mean, it was just like, it seemed like there were just so many things happening that just reflected his character. I remember the first one was when he got in a motorcycle wreck and he wasn't wearing a helmet. But I know in Pennsylvania, like, you don't have to wear a helmet. It's not the law there. But I just remember, like, why is this guy, like, so dumb? I mean, I was like 11 or 12. I was just like, you know, and then just the other things started happening. I was like, I don't want to, like, you know, I was honestly conflicted when I was younger because everybody was a Steelers fan, and then my dad was a huge Vikings fan. Like, I can't tell you how many baby pictures there are of me of him, and he's all in his Viking stuff, and he's got me wearing Viking shit. And when I look at old pictures of him too, he's pretty much always wearing Vikings gear. So like, I always had him kind of. He never really like tried to push me, but I was just always around it. So.
Understood, and it makes a lot of sense. I grew up in a rather unique situation myself here, and I bear with me a minute. This is going to gear towards a question for you. I grew up in a situation where my team, when I was a kid, didn't exist. I had a team that went out in the middle of the night and moved off to Indianapolis. I'm not sure if you know the story behind the Indianapolis Colts, but when I was born, I'm kind of an old soul. I was born in 89, so they were long gone. They were 5 years gone. I didn't have a team to root for when I was a kid, so I went with the Packers, as much as you probably don't like to hear that. I was a Brett Favre fan. I was a Brett Favre fan. I was also a Steve Young fan. I liked him in particular. I just didn't like the 49ers because they were winning so much. But anyway, so it came to a point where I was in the third grade and they announced that the Browns were moving to Baltimore, and I personally immediately jumped on board with them. But a lot of people, it took some convincing to get people to stop rooting for whoever they were rooting for and go to the Baltimore Ravens. So I got a question for you. If West Virginia or Virginia were to get a team, what would it take for you to stop your allegiance with the Vikings and go with them?
If Virginia ever got a team, I don't think I'd really care. You know, I'm not really a big fan of Virginia, and that goes back to when I was a child and we played Virginia in a bowl game. They treated West Virginia fans very badly, and I just have always had a bad taste in my mouth about just the whole state of West Virginia. After that, it was just, I mean, it was pretty ridiculous. But West Virginia, I mean, there's no way we can ever get a team here. It's just, I mean, our biggest city has like 50,000 people. So it's a joke here. There's actually a new arena team in the town my dad grew up. But if we hypothetically, if West Virginia had a professional football team, I think I would become a fan of it. So I think, I think it'd just be great if that happened. But if it did, I think, I would kind of leave that allegiance I had with the Vikings and move to like our actual like home team.
That's a very solid answer, and honestly, my parents, it took them a little while to come on board. It took them about a year or two in order to come on board with the Ravens, but they came to the realization that if they didn't root for the team and if they didn't get all their friends to root for the team, we were going to lose our team again. So that's one of the main reasons why people started to cling to the Ravens, because they didn't want to lose football in Baltimore. It took forever to get a team again. So I admire that if you were to go with your local home team in that kind of effect. But I agree with you. I don't think it's ever going to happen. I think
it's too bumfuck here.
Yeah, I think the owner of the Washington Redskins would have something to say about that, and he tried to force your team down your throat, or their team down your throat, just like they tried to do with us beforehand. But Tyler, give me some Minnesota Vikings questions since you're the subject matter expert here.
Well, I mean, I am an expert and I have a PhD in being disappointed, so that makes a lot of sense. Alex, you said you kind of got into the Vikings and really got hooked with that 2009 season. And I can kind of relate because my hook was 98 when I was 9 years old, and watching that whole thing transpired. As a little kid, I cried, and it was something that really hurt. And then 09 was kind of the same, except I had a bottle of Jägermeister to help soothe my pain that time. It's really difficult to continue to be a fan of the team, but obviously we still choose to do it. Being that you're in West Virginia, how do you feel that? Do you feel like it's easy to keep track of the team? Are you able to watch games rather easily?
I mean, my dad gets, he gets DirecTV Sunday ticket shit. So yeah, I mean, I can watch the games because of that, because I mean, it's always the most local team, like the Steelers, like they always put on a Steelers game or Redskins or like the Eagles even. But like since we have Sunday ticket, I can watch the Vikings easily.
Oh, perfect. Now, as a Vikings fan, I got to ask you this: what's your take on Joe Buck?
I mean, I really don't have much of an opinion on him, or really I really try not to put any opinions on any kind of TV, any kind of commentators, just because I feel like the vast majority of people don't like any of them really. So, but I mean, yeah, honestly, Joe Buck I think everyone feels the same about him pretty much. He's just bland. I really don't have much of a problem with him other than that.
Yeah. Well, the reason why I ask is because living in Minnesota, a lot of us, I mean, I think he's got an issue with it, but I think Joe Buck's one of the best that's ever done it. He tends to, what's the best way I can put this? Suck a little too much of Aaron Rodgers' dick. And yeah, he's got an obsession with him. So I thought maybe being outside of the media sphere in Minnesota, that you might not have that opinion, or maybe you just noticed it on your own.
I mean, honestly, I feel like there's so many people who just love Aaron Rodgers, and I just I mean, obviously I'm not a fan, but I don't really feel any hard feelings towards them, just because I mean he is a great quarterback, and being a Vikings fan, it's hard to show any appreciation towards him. But I really, if Aaron Rodgers was just I feel like he just he hasn't said anything about my dad lately, like he did that one time a few years ago. So I really I don't know, I really haven't had much of a problem with Aaron this year. But I really don't if someone in the media like that really is likes to talk about them and just seems to have a real thing for them. I know Sims does too. But I just feel like everyone has their own preferred players. So I feel like I can't really be mad at him for that.
Now, I got a question for you, Tyler, in rebuttal to that. Who is more of a rider? Would it be Joe Buck with Aaron Rodgers or Chris Collinsworth with Brady?
Or you mean Chris Collinsworth was saying, now here's a guy?
That too. But still, I think he's on Brady more than Joe Buck is on Aaron Rodgers.
If you ask any Minnesotan, it's going to be Buck with Rodgers. And it's difficult because part of the job as a broadcaster, which is something just being that I want to kind of get into the field and trying to understand their job. Their job is to promote football to the contrarian, the simpleton, the casual viewer, per se. And you got to pump up a guy like Aaron Rodgers because he's one of your biggest stars. But when you watch a Viking Packer game, almost every time when it's not a NBC or Monday Night Football game, you're getting Joe Buck. And it just feels to us like he just goes so over the top with it. It gets kind of annoying. But I would say Buck is worse with Rodgers than Collinsworth is with Brady. But then again, Brady doesn't do the stupid spectacular stuff, run around in the pocket for like 10 seconds and then find a guy open, 20 yards down the field.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Rodgers pulls a rabbit out of his ass any chance that he can get. It's pretty damn amazing.
Yeah. That I'm going to feel the same way I do about Brett Favre now that I did about that I will about Aaron Rodgers in like 10 years, because I hated Brett Favre growing up. But then, over the course of the last 10 years, especially with him being on the Vikings, having that experience, being able to really appreciate what he brought to the NFL, it brings a newfound respect and just for the player and what his contributions to the game.
Okay, here's the thing when it comes to the announcers. For one, with Joe Buck, being, all over, Aaron Rodgers, like you said, he's one of the most well-known stars out there. He's speaking to the, more casual fan, not to the more hardcore fans like us. And we've seen the commercials, Allstate and everything else, Bose. Everybody knows Aaron Rodgers, so that's how they're going to make it relate to it. And then when it comes to the kind of favoritism, I'm going to use the example that I use all the time as, being a Cowboys fan with Troy Aikman. Talk to any Dallas Cowboys fan in the Metroplex, and they're going to tell you, God, I hate Troy Aikman as an announcer. He goes so over the top to try and be, not be a Cowboys homer. He comes off as super anti-Cowboy. And then you talk to any Eagles, Giants, or Washington fan, and they're going to tell you, oh, we can't stand Troy Aikman. He's such a Cowboys homer still, even as an announcer. Every single fan base, because the hardcore fans know the teams typically better than the announcers do that see them a few times a year. So we all call them out for every little mistake that they make, every single slight or show of favoritism, and we're all hypersensitive to it.
Yes, that is very, very true. I'm hypersensitive to a lot of these announcers nowadays, so I could definitely see where you're coming from on that, and I'm very hypersensitive to especially the prime timers that I get to see every week, every Thursday, every Sunday, and every Monday night. Some of these guys that escape during the day, Rich Gannon's, I don't really particularly listen to him very often unless he's actually doing commentary on the game. Brian Billick, some of these guys I just can't really pinpoint in a lineup as far as their voices are concerned, but those Monday night, Thursday night, Sunday nights, I definitely feel you on that. I know exactly what you're talking about. So, Alex, tell me one thing, man. I know you're in college right now, and we've talked about this offline a little bit, but what year are you in right now?
Right now, I'm kind of behind because I went through like a transfer process, and a lot of the things didn't come through. Like when you transfer from college to college, not everything really transfers. And I was going from a private school to a public school, so shit like that doesn't really work. I should be if you're going like how it traditionally should go, I should be graduating this year, but I'm probably not going to for like another year. So, I mean, I'll be doing the 5th year shit, so I don't really care. I'd
This is
rather
a
not
red
be
shirt
done
year
right
for
now
you.
anyways.
It's your red shirt year. Don't worry.
Yeah, exactly.
Who the hell graduates college in 4 years anyways? They've got it. You can't graduate college in 4 years hardly anymore. The more government gives money and hands out loans, then the more that colleges jack up the price and make it so you stay longer.
That's also true. I personally was not afforded the opportunity to not have the ability to not work while I was going to college, so I had to work full time and go to school either part or full time whenever I could. It took me 5-6 years to get my associate's degree, and then I know exactly what you're talking about as far as the transfer goes. Transferring from community college to university was a pain in the dick. They didn't accept quite a few of my credits and barely any of my certifications, so I had to make up a couple things on my end. I had to argue tooth and nail with a couple people in order to get it, because they wanted me to retake some of the classes that I'd already taken in community college. I'm like, dude, this equals this. And honestly, they might have taught it better than you guys teach it here. So just take the damn credits and you're already getting my money somehow. Come on now. So I get that. Bobby, didn't you say you wanted to ask some questions about college?
Yeah, I was actually gonna, say I've got a couple questions. Just, I've got my youngest daughter is actually in college right now at the University of Arkansas. Woo Pig Suey. So I was just gonna say, how is college life? How do you like college? What's it like at WVU? And maybe throw in a little bit about Greer, the quarterback. How do you think he will be when he goes into the NFL?
I mean, I have when I started college, and it was just such a hard time when I started. At first I was kind of just homesick all the time. But the first college I went to, it felt like where I went to high school. So really, I wanted to leave because of that. Like, I wanted to go somewhere where I would have just more opportunities, and I just, being somewhere it felt like I've spent like my childhood at, that just didn't feel right to me, because usually people from like bigger high schools and like to go to that school, but it just didn't feel right. And then when I started WVU, it was such a hard transition, and it really took me a while to get used to it. But just by the more I went through it, and just the older I got, I just grew up a lot more and just got used to it. But I've never really been into I know people think WVU is a huge party school. I've never been to really any kind of frat parties there or anything. I really just hang out with my friends and stuff, and we'll go to bars sometimes, but it's been a while since I've done anything like that. But I mean, it's really WVU's, it's honestly pretty hectic there, and because the campus is split up in two, and it's just it sucks that it's like that, because people will try anything they can to not have, they'll just try to have classes on one part of the campus, because from it's just a
pain in the ass.
The hills there are ridiculous too. So that's why it's just the hills here.
That's how it is in Fayetteville too. So I got a follow-up question for you. You said that you stayed kind of a local or more local college at first before you transferred.
Yeah.
I'm going to take a wild stab in the dark here and say that you stayed for a girl.
Yeah.
Oh, bam. I did the same thing. I can say that. So that's why I did that, because I also kind of sort of stayed at before I went to University of Arkansas myself for a girl. So that's why I could kind of sense that you did it.
Yeah. I mean, actually, really, she's one reason why I stayed, but also at that time, we started dating in high school, but I was like a little bit older than her. So like when I graduated, she was still in high school. And she was going to go to WVU. And then when I was at this small college, I basically stayed. I went to this smaller college because it was close, but then I left because like that's where she was going to go. So I wanted to go there. And now like when I'm like being 22, I'm just like, why didn't I just get the fuck out of here? Like, so.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with staying. You probably learned a lot. So by the way,
Yeah.
I'm assuming it didn't work out with that young lady.
No.
You're still young, man. You're still young.
Yeah.
Unlike me.
It happens.
Unlike Bobby, especially.
Hey, I had a 4-year relationship or something like that in high school and college. Then I had another long-term, like 2.5-year relationship in college. And I got out of college, and my next serious relationship was with a woman who is 15 years my elder and is now my wife and my 3 kids. So.
Yeah, I've realized it takes time when it comes to things like that, and I've just been kind of coasting along at this point. So like I don't really feel a rush to be like in a relationship or anything. So yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, you shouldn't be in a rush
I'm still too young.
Yeah, you shouldn't be in a rush for anything, not just a relationship.
Yeah, I know. I got to figure out my own shit right now.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes, save yourself for marriage.
Yeah, exactly.
So bringing this back to football a little bit, and we're all big fans of pro football talk, and obviously you are too. Are you doing like journalism in college?
Yeah.
Or what are you doing in college?
Yeah.
So you can.
I'm doing journalism, but I'm not really a big fan of it. So
because it's probably too formal. You're not and I would see because of you, and also knowing the kind of pro football talk style. It's a very informal. It's not a formatted, super going by what the SLA, MLA guidelines, I guess. So yeah.
Yeah, it's like it's like they teach you there like how to be like a newspaper writer or something, or like how to work on the local news. It's just like this is not really what I want to be doing right now. I just really want to learn how to just really improve my writing skills.
And haven't they learned that local newspapers are dead? They should probably quit teaching some of that.
Yeah, anything local news is like, I mean, there's so many old people here. I'm sure they still love to read the newspaper and watch the news. So
I can tell you that I'm in my final 2 classes of my bachelor's degree right now. I'll be finished in March, and I'll walk across the stage in May. If I ever see MLA or APA format again, it'll be too soon. I am so sick of having to cite my resources and all that bullshit. But I know in journalism you're going to have to cite your resources, but you won't have to do it the way that they do it in APA and MLA format in Chicago or whatever the hell they do.
Yeah, it was like in high school when I first got a taste of all that. So like I've just become numb to all that shit. I've just become so used to it.
I get pissed off that for one, high school does not prepare you for real life if you choose to not go to college. Like nobody teaches you in high school how to do your taxes, and I'm sorry, and I'm an accountant, so I got my degree in accounting. You're required by law to file taxes every year, yet nobody teaches you, and a regular person cannot easily do their own taxes without having to pay somebody, or you're not doing them correctly if you're not paying somebody to do them anyways. So for starting off with that. Secondly, in college, they don't teach you or prepare you for the real world either, because like you're talking about, Alex, with the teaching you how to like cite stuff properly or do a certain format, nobody uses that anymore. That's not realistic. That's not real world. Same thing as a calculator. I get so tired of, I want to go back to all my elementary school teachers and middle school and high school. They're probably dead, but I want to go, well, no, they shouldn't be. I want to go back and tell them, Yeah, all y'all told me I had to learn this math stuff because I would never have calculators always around, or we wouldn't be allowed to use calculators in the real world. Nobody in business or the real world is going to let people go around doing math on a pen and paper and make you and risk a mistake that costs somebody tons of money. Like, come on.
Yeah.
Well, Bobby, let's also be honest here. My mom is now 60 years old, and when she was 10, everybody thought that we'd be living like the fucking Jetsons right now. So,
which exactly, so they should have already known that we were going to have flying cars and, the phones that do absolutely everything in the world.
Oh yeah, I'm just saying that they were kind of delusional back in the 60s.
Yeah, I mean, they always complain about the Gen Xers and millennials, all that kind of stuff. Who the fuck raised them? Who gave, like, I'm probably the oldest one here, so I don't know all those baby boomers that gave, Alex and CJ and Tyler gave all you, wussies participation trophies and quit keeping score, and now y'all are ruining everything.
Hey, I didn't know. Bullshit. No, my generation was the very last of that. It's my kids' generation.
Yeah. I think mine is like right at the cutoff too. Like there's like a weird cutoff because like I didn't have phones or anything when I was play with toys and shit. I really participation trophies or anything. Like
I didn't get my cell phone until I was 17 years old. Let me tell you that much.
I got mine at 16, CJ, and I'm 29 as well.
Yeah, I'm 35.
Yeah, I was 12 when I got a phone, but it was my dad's old phone.
So I got to tell you, man, college has been one hell of a road for me. I'm gonna be glad when it's over, but at the same time, I'm at a crossroads myself, and I'm wondering if you might be doing the same crossroads yourself when you're done. You sound like you're not too convinced about journalism, but I'm considering at the end, once I get myself a year under my feet, going back and doing broadcasting school. What would you think about that?
I mean, I think broadcasting would be a little better because it's broadcasting. It's not just learning how to write, writing in certain formats, how to do all of that because it's so specific. And, also, like, journalism is just, I think it's more broad than just broadcast because there's also broadcast journalism. But I would just, I wanted to do just journalism because solely for writing. But I think broadcasting, I think it's something I should have considered more. And I think it'd just be, really learning how to be behind a camera would be, I think it'd be more into that than what I've learned so far. I really haven't gotten too much into that as I would like to. So
you said behind a camera. So you want to be more like a producer style, or
I feel like I really just wanted to like like I said at first, I just wanted to improve my writing skills. I've just kind of always just stuck with just regular journalism. So. But it's really like it's a mix of everything. Like, you learn how to do interviews for like newspaper based. And so I just, I kind of wish I would have done broadcasting because I feel like, I don't know. It's just, there's just so many different opportunities, I guess. And it's just, you just really just got to find what you were really into. And I don't know, I guess I never really found what I was really into, but I think, broadcasting would be a little more interesting.
I think you'd be pretty good at it if you really took the chance to hone your skills, because I know I can speak for everybody else on here. We listened to the PFTPM Posse and Fridays with A-Flow whenever you were home with your dad, and I can tell you that you had a sense for the microphone. You knew exactly where it was. You knew how to talk into it. You knew how to gauge the audience. You had your dad skip over some of the PFTPM Posse questions so that he can actually read other questions. Thank you very much. I really do appreciate that. Give everybody else a chance.
Yeah. Hey, now I normally put questions up there that are not just mine.
I know, but you gained like the first 40 questions still, and I'd like to eventually get mine read.
Well, all you gotta do is get Mike to follow you.
I know what the problem is. you know what the problem is? It's because he follows the Posse account. So when he goes and looks at questions, they're just the first ones. It's like, come on, you gotta understand how this works.
Well, and let's be real. And besides the questions that I collect or not that people ask me to ask on their behalf, besides those, I ask the best questions anyways. I'm the one that provides the best content.
Bitch.
So that's the reason. That's why I get the questions read.
Yeah, you provide the content. I provide the jerseys. CJ, what do you provide?
I got a rock. That might be older than all of you as far as a reference. Man. So, all right, I know you've got more questions, Tyler. You got to have more Minnesota Vikings questions. So, talk about the miracle from this past year.
That's kind of what I was thinking about. Alex, where were you when the miracle happened? Like, how did you react?
Where I was, I mean, that game just made me so infuriated because they should have never have been. The Saints should have never taken the lead in that game.
Agreed.
So it's just like, same shit, like. But I was really disappointed. Like I was down in the barn with my family. We're more like where the TVs are, but I was in this room because I just couldn't handle watching it anymore. And my dad he comes running in and then he says, he starts, he comes in running with his hands up. He's like, we won. And I was like, there's no way we did. But I always deep down, I had like a little bit of hope left for that game. And it just, it happened. So, and I watched the video still, like on the day of the anniversary, like it gave me chills again. So like, it just sucks what happened the week after, but I just feel like that can't take away that big moment of the miracle.
Aha, I knew it, guys. You heard him. Mike said that he hates all 32 teams equally, but this tells me otherwise. This tells me he still celebrates the Minnesota Vikings.
Well, now hold on, CJ. Just because he likes the Vikings more doesn't mean he doesn't hate them equally. They do disappoint us a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely have some hate towards them.
I don't have any hatred towards my team, I can tell you that much. I'm just a homer, though. I love them.
They haven't let you down like the Vikings have let us down.
Did you watch the Chargers versus the...
Yeah.
Yeah, but were you actually expected to win?
Yeah, I personally expected to win, and quite a few people did too.
Yeah.
Well, no, like 98, we were expected to steamroll through the playoffs and win the Super Bowl easy.
Yeah.
09, it just week 3 happened, that Brett Favre to Greg Lewis touchdown in week 3 against the Niners. It felt like we were a team of destiny. We tore through Dallas in the divisional round, and then if it weren't for 5 turnovers, we would have beaten the Saints in New Orleans. We did hold them to under 300 yards. And then last year, the miracle felt like a team of destiny. First drive in Philly, touchdown.
Yeah.
It looked easy. It looked like we were playing some junior high kids. And then all of a sudden, Chris Long hits Keenum's arm, pick 6, and then we just unravel. Like, we've been massively let down. Not to mention being favored in all 4 of our Super Bowl losses by a lot. And this fan base we're just tortured.
I get it. I completely get it. I've watched some of these Vikings issues over the years, and I can tell you that I've experienced some similar disappointment, not quite as much as you guys. I'm not sure if you guys remember 2011, certain kicker by the name of Billy Cundiff, who happened to cost the Baltimore Ravens the AFC Championship game. So I know where you guys are coming from when you have a kicker who shanks it.
Didn't come from the next year, though.
Oh, yeah. That was... thank God we got rid of that guy. We got rid of Lee Evans, and we got rid of Mr.
Lee Evans.
Yeah, that poor guy. He got the shaft, though, man. I felt bad for him. He was actually a pretty good wide receiver, but that drop, it just ended his career.
Mm-hmm.
He wasn't bad. He was really good with Buffalo, and I felt bad for him. But he actually still lives around here, and he keeps a picture of that drop in his basement.
Ooh.
I don't know why. That would haunt me every day if I were him.
You know why he does it? It's because he's a football player. It's not what defines him.
Yeah. You know what?
Isn't that what Cody Parkey said or something on Good Morning America or Tonight Show?
Cody Parkey's a moron. He should. If there's any time that I agree with your dad, Alex, it's Cody Parkey should not have gone on any show right afterwards. He should have avoided the media.
Okay. No. Okay, hear me out on this because I disagree. I think that number one, he's a kicker, and what do we hear constantly? Oh, kickers aren't real football players. Kickers aren't actually a part of the team. You know, we always hear just derogatory shit about kickers. So when the guy has a chance to expand his brand, to grow his brand, or whatever you want to say about it, to market himself, when we know that he's probably going to get fired anyways, he's got to take every opportunity he can.
I didn't think about it like that. That makes sense. But at the same time, I personally, if it was me, I would be embarrassed to leave my house.
Yeah, I agree.
I would there would probably be a bounty on my head, and people would still be pissed off at me. I'd have to wear a paper bag because that was not a doink. That was a double doink.
Okay, I've got a hypothetical question for all of y'all. So, let's say, for Alex and for Tyler, y'all are the kicker for the Green Bay Packers in the Super Bowl. You've got a chance to, I know this could actually happen, but let's pretend it could. You had a chance to beat your Vikings and give the Packers a title, and you're the kicker. CJ, you are the kicker for the Freddie Kitchen coached Browns against the Ravens in the Super Bowl. And you've got a chance to make a field goal to win the Super Bowl. But at the same time, y'all do this, your teams are going to lose the Super Bowl, and we all know how hard it is, the likelihood of getting back again. Would y'all purposely shank that kick, or would you go ahead and make it and win?
Who wants to go first?
I'm not going to miss.
Oh, I'm not missing either.
Yeah.
Look, I love my Vikings, but if I have the opportunity to win a Super Bowl, I'm not shanking a kick.
Okay, I have a question, and this is very serious. What is the status of my contract? What year am I in? Am I close to free agency?
Why does that have anything to do with it?
I'm not done yet.
It does. It actually has everything to do with it, and that's a very, very good question, CJ. But in my scenario, you are set for life. You're a former franchise quarterback who tore up his arm a la Andrew Luck style. Jimmy Garoppolo, he didn't need tore his knee up, but tore up your shoulder, didn't come back from it, but you had an amazing Pat McAfee style leg.
Okay.
So you're able to also go and start kicking.
All I'm going to say is, who signs my paycheck at the end of the day?
You don't need your paycheck because you're retiring after this game.
No,
you're done anyways.
That's not true, man. And also, it comes down to loyalty at that point. I want people to remember me and to idolize me. And I don't want them to be pissed. I don't want to have to go through Cleveland and for the obvious reasons, like I do now. But I don't want them to have to point at me and say, you're the reason why, and then be on the media the next day. And then, no, I don't want that embarrassment.
You're set for life. You're going to be owner of an NFL franchise, so money is no issue whatsoever. So you would rather hold on, wait. Okay. You would rather go down in infamy and history, idolized by the Cleveland Browns, the Freddie Kitchen coach Cleveland Browns, than go down in history and infamy for winning the game for your Baltimore Ravens instead? Because as soon as the game's over with, you go out there and say, hey, Ravens fans, I did this on purpose. Yeah, idolize me. Take me to the parade because you wouldn't win the Super Bowl without me. So
No,
Yeah,
I could not do that.
No?
First off, this is third level in hell bullshit you're putting me through right now. I don't appreciate
Just
this.
open
but,
your minds. Open your minds.
I honestly would, if I had the possibility and it was within my field goal range, I would make the kick so I can get that Super Bowl ring. And then, because you got to think about the alternative as well. You could either be loved by all of Cleveland, or you could be thought of as the guy who gave up on his team throughout the whole nation.
I don't care. I'd be loved in Dallas. Who gives a shit?
Then they'd be like, oh, wow. And then Dallas would be considered the team that is the next Kickgate or something like that. They put somebody in disguise on the other team, and then there would be an investigation, and then they'd lose their draft pick. Roger Goodell would come down and fine everybody and suspend the whole team. And I don't think that would be a smart idea.
You don't know Cowboys fans. They wouldn't care as long as we won a title.
They might strip the title. Nah, they wouldn't do that. I don't think so.
The NFL's not going to strip a title. If they didn't strip the Patriots because of Deflategate or the fact that they quote unquote spied on the Rams practices, Bountygate, all this stuff. If they didn't strip a title for any of that, unless the game was legitimately fixed, I don't think they're ever stripping a title.
I don't think they are either.
This isn't the NCAA when they can just take stuff away for recruiting violations and players accepting impermissible benefits.
Gonna have to agree with that. So, question for you, Alex, if you don't mind. Prior to him being named the offensive coordinator for the Cleveland Browns and now head coach, do you know who the hell Freddie Kitchens was at the time when they did the promotion?
I mean, not at all.
Thank you.
CJ, we knew who he was when he was named the offensive coordinator. Then we learned about him. You didn't know who he was weeks after he got the job.
It was a week after he got the job. That's bullshit.
It was like closer to a month.
No, bullshit. And even still, how am I going to freaking remember that name? That's BS.
And it's obvious that Alex just has horrible taste in men, because if he had any kind of a crush on Baker Mayfield, then he would have known who Freddie Kitchens was.
Jesus Christ.
I guess I do.
Yeah, you know what? I'm with you, Alex. I understand. We apparently have horrible taste in men. That's just what our man crushes are not there on Mondays.
Yeah.
See, I got a big man crush on Baker Mayfield, but I want to ask you, Alex, what's your take on Will Grier?
I think Will Grier is probably the most overrated quarterback we've ever had.
Hot take.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. See, I'm a huge Florida Gator fan, and the stuff he did his redshirt freshman year when he was still at Florida, like, he was...
What did he do? Someone tell me. I don't know this.
Grier?
It's different.
Grier did a really good job before he got suspended because of the quote-unquote PEDs, which he claims was just from a supplement he got at GNC, which is what they all claim. Whether it's valid or not is a whole different story. But after Tebow, we've had a long string of quarterbacks that were like 5-star recruits that just plain old sucked. And Grier seemed like he was that guy. Then he got suspended, and then he left school and went to West Virginia. And I've been a really big fan of his since he was being recruited, and I'm really shocked to hear that you think he's so overrated.
I mean, just people see. We had a quarterback 2 years ago that everybody despised for whatever reason, and like he wasn't very skilled, but he worked really hard. And I mean, we won 10 games that year, which is really good for West Virginia. And just people just hated him. It's like I don't understand why people hated him. And he was really passionate for the team. I don't think Will Grier had that same passion. I mean, I think he's a talented quarterback, but I don't think everyone just praises him in West Virginia. It's just like, what's he really done? Like, he beat Texas, and that game was amazing, but I don't know.
So it's almost as if the quarterback itself is really good, but you don't think he's passionate about West Virginia or the program?
I mean, I think he's good, but I just think he gets way too much praise, and I don't like. I mean, he's good, but people act like he is absolutely amazing.
Okay.
And like, I'm not like, I won't knock him for missing the not the Pro Bowl, the bowl game. Like, you know, like who cares about a bowl game anyway? So it's pointless.
The executives making money off the players care about the bowl game.
I mean, yeah, but I don't know. That's just been the move for so many guys now, and if it's a business decision, I don't know.
Does anybody here even watch bowl games besides the major ones?
Just the ones my team's in, if that ever happens.
I'll watch some of them. Like it depends on the matchup. Like some of the lower level bowl games actually end up with pretty decent matchups. But mainly, like I miss the days of yesteryear, like the mid 2000s, when you'd have the Outback Bowl, the Gator Bowl, the Capital One Bowl, all New Year's Day morning. And then the Cotton Bowl was in there too. Then you got to finish off with the Rose Bowl, and then it was usually the Sugar Bowl at night. Like that was the ultimate slate of games for college football. And then New Year's Eve had a pretty good slate too, and you got to see like the top two, like outside of the Power 5 conferences, play each other in like the Independence Bowl or something. Like that's when college football was fun. Now it just feels like a real cash grab because you have 5 and 7 teams that make bowl games. Like the only ones that really matter are the New Year's 6 bowl games, and kind of what CJ said, whatever game your team is playing in. But every now and then there are a few lower level games that actually have a really good matchup that I'll keep my eye on.
Bowl games suck, unless they're the playoff games.
Yeah, I'm with you for the most part. They pretty much suck now. I can watch football as it is because of the length of games and the pace of games and the fact that there's so much even disparity between teams and it seems conferences. And I know these high scoring games are fun or whatever, but 63, 54 every single week in a 6-hour game is not fun.
Yeah, it's really tough because you have so many explosive athletes, mainly playing on the offensive side of the ball, and you get like two or three really good explosive athletes on offense. We'll use Oklahoma as an example because they had Kyler Murray, CeeDee Lamb, and Hollywood Brown. You get those guys against an average defense, they're just going to torch them. You get those guys against an average NFL defense, you're going to have yourself a game. And I think it's just the parity in college football is just non-existent. And because it's kind of non-existent, you're going to get those kind of games. And that I like watching college football. Like the great games are better than almost anything the NFL puts up. Like the first 2 Alabama Clemson national championship games were all world football games. Now it's tough. If you get a great college football game, it's awesome, but the parity is just not there. And that's why you see these high scores just constantly.
Alex, do you watch professional wrestling?
No.
All right, I'm done here. Bye. We're all actually pretty big pro wrestling fans here, but if you are not a fan, then we will not be talking about professional wrestling.
I never really got into that.
Understood, and your dad was not a big fan growing up either, so I completely understand that.
Yeah, it was just, I don't know, just never something that was on TV. So, I mean, like it was just something like, casually watching. It was just something I never really put on.
Oh, I totally understand. There was some I got into when I was like 14 because I saw like an ad, and I remembered Brock Lesnar from when he was amateur wrestling at the U of M. Like, oh, this looks cool, and that's how I got into it. But hell, if you don't have that kind of gateway, I don't blame you at all.
Yep, I just remember watching it when I was a kid.
My friends really into it either, so.
All right, well, Alex, I don't want to really take up too much more of your time, but I do want to get your opinion on one more thing. A lot of turmoil has been going on in the Pittsburgh Steelers lately. I'm sure you've been hearing about it. Antonio Brown has got his own saga going on in Pittsburgh, and I wanted to get your thoughts on that. What do you think is going on? What do you think is going on backstage behind the curtain? And where do you think he ends up next year if he gets traded at all?
He's just a dummy. Like, he's trying to take all this attention, and he just, I just don't think he actually realizes that, like, he's not the only player that, like, is in the league. Like, I don't really, like, when I read his tweets and some of the stuff he says and retweets, I just don't get it. It's like, he's a great receiver, and I'm not saying he's not, and he doesn't deserve, he deserves a lot, but I don't know why he's, like, trying to single himself out from everybody else. Like, he's trying to say that no one else works as hard as him. Like, I'm sure that there's so many other players in the NFL who do so much every day. Like, I don't know. He's just trying to make himself look higher and mightier than everybody else, but he's just, I think people can really tell how it makes him look.
I get that. And would you say diva-esque would be a defining term?
God, it seems just like a little more than a diva. I don't even know. It's just, I think it's really weird. There's just something off about it. I don't know.
You think maybe mental illness or something?
No, I guess it's a diva because he's just displaying very strong selfishness. So I guess I just think he's being over the top selfish.
Narcissistic to a point, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's actually
No. Hear me out.
Okay.
How about this? Okay. How about put on your stoner hat a little bit here. Open your mind up. We all know that players. Yeah. We all know that the players have no power, really no real leverage, except for a few of the stars who can truly, no matter what, they're going to keep getting chances. I think that Antonio Brown has, finally just had enough of it in Pittsburgh for whatever reason, coupled with the fact that his contract is only paying him $13 million, I believe, over the next 2 or 3 years. So way underpaid for what Antonio Brown believes he should be paid. So he knows that he has the star power. He has the leverage, quote unquote, to be able to cause a stir, cause a disruption, and force his way out, a la T.O. back in the day. And he's doing that, and he's pulling his power move. I think he's a diva, asshole, whatever, but I also think he's pulling this power move selfishly for himself, and, I'm fine with it.
Yeah, I think he should get the money he deserves. I think he should get paid. But I don't think he should really be, like, calling people out, especially people that aren't even a part of that organization anymore. Like,
I agree with that, yeah.
I just thought, like, how are you going to do that to those guys? Like, there's no way they're part of the problem because they haven't been on any part of the team for years.
See, the one thing that really intrigues me about this whole thing is it's not about money because he just got paid. And it almost feels like he thinks Juju is kind of taking his spotlight because of how Juju had almost a better year. He was voted team MVP over him. And I think AB is starting to get into that diva-ish role like a T.O. where he wants to be the guy. He wants to be the center of attention. And the fact that somebody's coming in and stealing his thunder almost, I think is too big of an issue for him. And it doesn't help that you've got a guy like Ben Roethlisberger at quarterback who's got an ego the size of the state of Texas. And Todd Haley was there, and Mike Tomlin's got all the X's and O's figured out, but he doesn't have the people figured out.
Yeah. I think there's just a lot of clashing personalities in the league. So,
come on, Tyler. Our state's big. Texas is big, but Texas is not nearly the size of Big Ben's ego.
Touche.
It could possibly eclipse that entire state. Maybe start going over to New Mexico. Yeah. You guys, you two got time for one more question each. Do you want to ask Alex here a question before I let him go?
I got one for you, man. Obviously, you've been a Vikings fan for a while. Who are your top 5 favorite Vikings?
I've always really liked Jared Allen.
Great pick.
Yeah, I think he might be my favorite. He's just such a character, and he performed, and I just loved how he was. I really like John Randall too, because he reminded me, I feel like him and Jared Allen were, I think they have a lot of personality wise, and he was, I think he's inspirational being undrafted and, just playing how he did. And I loved his attitude. I'm sure there are plenty of players who didn't really like him because I know he loved to talk a lot of shit. But that's like the
amount of eye black he had.
I loved this around his eyes. I thought that was great.
The amount of eye black was just ridiculous around his eyes. I couldn't stand it.
He got fined so much for it too.
Yeah, I tried to do that in 8th grade and it didn't really work.
I'm sure you probably sweated off because I know I did once.
No, I tried to I had a stick and I was trying to do it over my eyes and it just really bothered my eyes. I was like, yeah, I can't do this.
I sweated off. That's what happened to me.
Yeah. So I just left it on my face and not on my head or eyes. And I kind of figured I'd sweat it off and it'd end up being, shit everywhere.
Obviously Christian Ponder. Go ahead.
I was just thinking about him today. I really liked Brett Favre when he played for the Vikings, and like I said, that year was just really my first. It was just my first real football year. That was the first year I played, and then just the Vikings were really just amazing that year. And I really liked Brett Favre. I really like Minnesota Brett Favre a lot. I really like Adrian Peterson. I know there's
I was hoping he'd say that.
Everyone knows any kind of, the deal with him. But when he was playing, he was just ridiculous. And I really liked running backs when I first got into football. That was my favorite position. I always wanted to be a running back. So I really liked him. He sent my dad a jersey. It was from a preseason game, but he interviewed him and he sent him a jersey, and it was around the time of my birthday. And he wrote on it for me. It's hard. It's really hard for me not to like him because I have a jersey of his. And then before my first playoff football game when I was a senior, he sent a video to his agent. His agent sent it to my dad. It was just he said, "Good luck, Alex," and it was just it was a personal video, so it was just I know a lot of things that surround him, but I just have a few special things from him. So
I've always had a lot of respect for AD. I know everybody calls him AP, but if you know him, he actually goes by AD for all day,
baby.
Yep.
Yes, and but I've always had massive respect for him, and that shit that surrounded him with his kid. Number one, if you knew where he was born or where he was raised in Texas and stuff like that. When I was a kid, I'm 35. And when I was a kid, my best friend's grandma actually, if she heard us cussing, would literally wash our mouth out with soap. Not, no bullshit. And also when we got caught beating up his little brother, whatever else, we had to go outside and cut our own switch. You had to go out there and cut, your own willow branch. Yeah, we used to get that stuff too. I understand it's not something that we do necessarily today, or at least not in a lot of parts, but it was still something that is very, very common, and it wasn't extreme. But anyways, I digress. He took way too much bullshit for that.
Yeah, I'm sure you got the absolute shit beat out of him growing up. That's just,
Oh, yeah.
I just wanted to interject real quick. I'm not sure if you named all 5 of yours or if you just got the 4.
I still have one more.
Okay, go ahead and give me your 5th one. It may be mine.
God, I got to think a little bit. I mean, it's hard to decide between who's on the team now and like all-time favorite players. I mean, I think Alan Page.
Well, hold on. No, stop then. Besides that, I want to hear then your last one or last couple. I want to know who your favorite players are on the Vikings now.
We can get to that in a minute, but I do want to do an all-time favorite thing because I want to bring in my one person my all-time favorite Minnesota Viking. But if you can't decide your last one, then maybe I can influence you. How about this? There was a punter that you guys had a couple years ago who was very outspoken.
Oh my God, Chris Warcraft. He's amazing.
Chris Clue.
I've got his cell phone number.
He was a real funny dude, part of a band. And I don't know why this tickles me so much, but the reason I like him so much was he agreed to give Donovan McNabb his number 5. Did you guys ever hear the story of what he got in return for that?
Yeah, it was like $10,000 to the charity of his choice, and Donovan McNabb had to promote his band in interviews or something like 5 times.
Mm-hmm. It was 5,000, by the way, but yeah, close enough. And then what was the third condition?
I don't remember the third condition, but it was something off the wall ridiculous.
He had to buy him an ice cream cone. I mean, just silly shit like that, and just in good favor and in good faith. That's why I personally like Chris Cluey, and he's honestly a good guy. I like him so much.
You got to go online and Google Chris Cluey homosexual marriage rant, and he goes on a huge rant about how it doesn't affect anybody else's lives, and it's not going to turn you into a lustful cockmonger is one of them. And he was right, and it basically got him kicked out of the league.
Yeah, I never realized, like, when all of this happened. I'm looking at it right now.
Yeah, because Alex, you were probably 16 at that time?
Yeah, probably like 15. It seems like 15, 16. It just seems like, something I just didn't really pay attention to.
But yeah, he was very outspoken. If I'm not mistaken, didn't he sue the Vikings at some point for letting him go or something like that?
Yeah, no, he sued them over their special teams coach for making homophobic comments, things like that.
I thought so.
But he donated the money that he won to charity.
What a good guy. What a good guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's my personal favorite. But did you ever come up with a 5th there, Alex?
I think Alan Page, honestly.
Okay.
He's just a classic, and he's a D tackle. In that 88, I love that he wore 88 as a defensive lineman. Like, I wish he could still do that.
Yeah, we have an 88 as a running back right now, by the way, and you typically don't see that. So I don't know how.
Surprised to let him keep that.
Right, it's
one of those grandfathered in kind of things. He wore it as a receiver. They made him a running back. They let him keep it.
I mean, when Devin Hester left the Bears, he started wearing like 17, like normal receivers numbers.
Yeah,
that's true. Yeah, I think Devin Hester's a Hall of Famer. By the way, I don't know what you guys think.
I don't think he'll ever get in because specialists really don't get in.
I think he's a rare exception, though.
Well, it's really difficult with a guy like Hester because he literally has 20 great plays, and then that's about it. Like, are you going to put a guy in for 20 great plays? I think that's a really difficult task.
In the stages that he did it, yeah, I think he deserves it.
Game-changing plays, and you got to look at the ratio of chances, the number of chances that he had, to make those plays. I believe that every single position should have chance or the equal opportunity to get into the Hall of Fame, including the Cowboys LP Ladisor, the long snapper who's never had a bad snap in his career. But I know it won't happen. But I think punters, kickers, they should all get equal chances to get in.
I agree 100%. Now, Alex, I do believe Bobby did have a question for you. Take my pill notification.
If I did, I think I've forgotten it. So
it's your current modern day.
I was gonna ask. Well, he already kind of answered that. I was gonna ask if you had any current and kind of answered that because you said you're just kind of just chilling and just nothing.
Yeah, I really if I was thinking of a current Vikings player that I'm
I like that.
I really like Diggs, and I like Daniil Hunter. Those are probably my favorite two on the team.
I always interrupt people when I say Maryland's own Diggs, by the way. Thank you very much.
That's true.
You like Diggs more than Thielen?
I do.
I like Diggs because last year when we were in Minnesota for the Super Bowl, my dad was interviewing him, and he told him to go up and talk to me, so he just came up to me and dapped me up, and that was really it was cool.
Well, anytime you have a personal interaction with somebody, that's going to give them an advantage. I totally get that.
And I think Daniil Hunter deserves more respect, but I'm a fan of him.
He deserved to have his name pronounced right by Chris Sims.
Yeah.
Stop calling the guy
Chris Sims barely knows how to speak English. Let's take it one step at a time.
Yeah, stop calling the poor fucker Danielle.
Well, it's hard. It spells Danielle. I remember when he got drafted, I'm like, why are we drafting a guy named Danielle? And then I listened to the scouting report. I'm like, oh, okay.
That poor guy probably got picked on so much growing up.
Well, he was from what, Jamaica or Haiti, and then he immigrated to Florida when he was like 8 or 12, something like that. So I think he probably got a little bit of slack. Plus, look at him; he's yoked.
Yeah, I wouldn't fuck with him. I'll tell you that.
He's frightening.
Yeah.
And I can't wait to smoke a daddy cigar with Sims.
I can't either.
Hey there, easy. Marijuana kills. Where are you going to be when your mom finds your body overdosed on marijuana?
I will smoke 5 marijuanas until
I injected one whole marijuana once, and I lived to tell the tale.
A lot of people have.
All right, folks. Alex, I really appreciate you coming on again today.
Thanks for having me.
I appreciate it. And will you be willing to come on again in the future?
I definitely will.
All right. I would love to have you. I think these two would love to have you too. And as always, Tyler, thank you very much for coming on the show. Bobby, thank you for remaining sober and coming on the show. And,
oh no, I'm enjoying myself some cannabis already. So.
Oh God damn it! All right, we could have left without that, but until next week, thank you guys very much. Thank you very much for coming in. One of the things I like doing on the FAPT is I like having people on, and not in an interview style. I like to pretend that we're all sitting here being buds, drinking beer, and just having a conversation, not something professional, not something that feels forced. So that was just Bobby, that was Tyler, that was Alex, that was myself. We were all just bullshitting, having conversation. It was pretty obvious. That's how you should really be doing interviews. I mean, if you wanted to be professional, don't cuss so much, I guess. But other than that, it's always a good time to have the people on that I can get along with, and the people that want to actually be on the show and want to have a good conversation and have a good talk. That produces the best interviews. So, ladies and gentlemen, it's championship weekend. I want you guys to go out there and enjoy the games. You got once again, it's the Kansas City Chiefs are going to be hosting the New England Patriots. The New Orleans Saints are going to be hosting the LA Rams. Should be good championship. Should be good offense. Defenses, I'm not so sure are going to show up, but we're going to find out. I can't wait. I hope you'll have a great weekend. I hope that you enjoy the rest of your week. Subscribe, give a thumbs up, do whatever they do on podcasts, share with everybody, give us a review, and I hope that all of you enjoy your week. And until next time, this has been the FAPT.